directions and wait. So now I'm going to introduce our next presenter. This is Rachael Steidel. And I can't wait to hear about your business because I feel like even though I use it, I don't fully understand it. So that's worse for you than for me. So she created, I was going to say Lucky Penny Press. She created Parent Click,
right.
which actually
was originally SB Parent.
SB Parent. Okay, so I remember when it was SB Parent, and was it also a magazine?
No, it's always been online.
It's always been online.
We've had a couple of print things we've done throughout the years.
Okay,
yes.
Okay. And now it's Parent Click, which she will talk about more. It's an online community, and it's in 18 different cities, if I'm not mistaken. So,
yes.
So I'd love to hear your story. Thank you, Rachael.
We are going to actually have our 10-year anniversary in April, which is, time's gone really fast. I have 3 children, 13-year-old twins and a 9-year-old, and I mark the anniversary every year because we officially launched Parent Click when my daughter was a newborn, my youngest. And I started it because at the time, I grew up in Santa Barbara. I took classes up at City College, and I was in several parenting groups, and because I was one of the people who was originally from Santa Barbara, I was the go-to person on finding new resources for families. But by the time my toddlers were getting ready to go to preschool, I was looking at all of these moms doing the exact same legwork to try to get information for their families. We were all going to visit the same preschools, we were all asking the same questions, and it just seemed duplicitous that everybody had to go through this much work to do everything. So I started looking and started talking to the groups I was in about putting together a book, thinking that would make the most sense. And again, this was 10 years ago when the internet was much harder to navigate. And I realized very quickly that resources change rapidly and daily. And so that if I really wanted to make this effective, we needed to go online. So I spent about a year while I was pregnant looking at this idea, putting it together, everybody patting me on the head and saying what a cute idea, and trying to figure out how to launch a website. I had no background in technology. My background is in management. I have a degree in clinical psychology, but I have always worked. I've always loved working. I've done a lot of internships over the years, and when I was going to school, I got my master's in clinical psych, but I spent a lot of time working in fields that were unrelated so that I could just find, I found different sides of myself and things that I was good at. So when I looked at doing this, although I had never written a business plan, although I had no startup funding, although I had 3 children at home, and no experience in technology, I felt very strongly that it was something that parents needed. I also did grow up in a family of entrepreneurs, so I've watched people put their heart into things and succeed at them. And so I just felt like, regardless of what happened with it down the road, even if it ended up just being a community service, I was going to go for it. So I put together the whole website, and pretty much right after my daughter was born, I decided either I'm going to do this or I'm going to scrap it all. I took a web design class, realized very quickly that I couldn't wear that hat and try to grow a business at the same time, so I hired a web developer to build it. And we launched the site, and I sent out about 400 letters to local businesses, encouraging them to advertise on it. I got 0 responses. And the thing is, when you're starting a new business, you think you've got everything figured out. Well, if parents want this, businesses are going to want it. And I had 2 goals in mind. One was to give parents choices. I felt really strongly that in the parenting community, everybody's opinions are put on you. And that has to do with everything from birthing to breastfeeding to where your kids go to school to what have you. And I felt like parents need to be able to have everything in front of them so they can make choices for themselves and what works best for their family. My other goal when I started researching how do we do advertising on the site was realizing how expensive it is for organizations to advertise in our community and really anywhere. And what really was mind-boggling for me actually was looking at the phone book advertising. And to have a small advertisement in the phone book was just astronomical. So I put together a spreadsheet and figured out all the pricing and decided our second goal was that we were going to be an affordable way that any business, big or small, any nonprofit could advertise with us. And we were going to call them listings. Our goal was not to be a flashy website. Our goal was to be content-based. So I spent a lot of time researching websites and deciding what I liked and didn't like on websites. And what I found was a lot of websites, even to this day, are full of advertisements, but they're not content-rich. So that has been and will continue to be our first goal. So we didn't get a response from that, and so for startup, what we did is I borrowed $3,000 from a family member, and this family member happened to be my grandfather, who was willing to do it just to support me. I have a wonderful husband who said he was he's a scientist. He doesn't get the entrepreneurial thinking or starting a business, but he knew that I needed to do this. So he was okay with me doing it. And I worked part-time to actually fund it. And really what I was funding was childcare so that I could really put the time into starting a business. And within a year and a half, we were actually making money. It took me 4 years, though, before I actually wrote myself a paycheck. And during that 4 years, I had a very good friend who helped keep all my books. For the first year, I was stuffing everything basically into envelopes because money has never motivated me for doing business. Yes, we need it. Yes, I needed the site to pay for itself. But I have found, and I have watched a lot of businesses now come and go over the last 10 years, that people who get into anything just for the money are not very often going to be successful. You look at people like Steve Jobs. He was successful because he believed in what he was doing. He started off in a garage. Most of us who start businesses, I remember when I first started, people going, aren't you afraid people are going to steal your concept? And there's all these other sites that are competition to yours. I feel really strongly that every business has their own unique niche. And you need to find your own unique niche when you're starting a business. And if you look at everybody as competition, you're not going to succeed. If you look at people and you say, what is it that we're doing differently than them? How can we partner with them? How can we complement each other? You're going to be more successful, and especially in a community like Santa Barbara. And when we launched what was SP Parent, our goal was to market in the community, not market online. Marketing online is great, and you want to come up in search engines and all that's important. But for what we were doing, I wanted people to see us as a storefront, not as, we all know what it's like to go on a website and not even be able to find a contact person. Is there even a real person behind this? So we put a lot into local marketing. And in doing that, we also decided that we didn't want to spend a lot on just generic advertising or marketing materials. We really wanted to do it. We're in a very nonprofit-centric community. So we put it into sponsoring events. So we sponsor everything from the smallest little, preschool carnival up to we've helped sponsor the, International Film Festival and other big events in Santa Barbara, because that gets us out in the community. We get to support events in our community. We get visibility because we are in their programs, our logo's different places, and then people know we really are part of Santa Barbara. 2 years into starting SP Parent, we started getting calls from other communities asking how they could do this in their cities. So what we decided to do at the time, because I didn't want to manage all of it, we started licensing the technology. So what we essentially did is we built these same sites in other communities, and we ended up being a support system for these people launching the sites. And the problem is, and what's one of the things you learn along the way, is that I felt so strongly about being unique to our community that I told everybody they should absolutely name their sites something different than what we had named ours. So it was all about their community. Well, it makes it very hard for branding. So ParentClick, even after 8 years, 2 years ago, I had a ParentClick sticker on the back of my car, and somebody came up to me and said, "You have competition. Did you know there's a ParentClick site here now too?" I said, "Well, actually, that's us." But we had done such a good job of making sure that nobody ever saw us as a company that we never brought up our business name, ParentClick. So about 2 years ago, we decided we were going to relaunch our site. Very expensive endeavor, and we were going to relaunch it. We have rebuilt the site about 5 times, but it was really building on what we already had. This time we were going to do a brand new launch, put a lot more into social marketing, social media, and networking. And in doing that, we decided we were going to put all of our community sites under one domain, and we were going to rebrand as ParentClick. So in January, we relaunched the site, and that's what we're doing. And now we hire our editors in all of our communities, and we are overseeing all of it so that there's quality control. And essentially, we've launched a new business model. So we're working out all the bugs with that, and it's been an adventure. And I have to say, I love what I do. When you own your own business, you don't work less. You work harder than you'll ever work, but you set your own hours. You know, for me, I knew that I wanted to be able to work in my kids' classrooms if I needed to, volunteer at things still, and it allows me to do it. It also means that I'm up till 2 in the morning sometimes working, and have very odd schedules sometimes, but you get to put everything you do is for something you love. And I have to say, if you're going to work that hard, you've got to love it. And you've got to love wearing multiple hats, and you've got to be willing to wear different hats. And just one last thing I was going to share is just the biggest learning curve I think I've had in the last 2 years is that for me, I wanted to work every aspect of my business as it was growing because I truly wanted to understand every part of it. But I think for us, and where we're looking at growing next is creating advisory boards and hiring other people in, because at some point you also want to bring in people who are better at what you do than you are. And you can't continue to try to do every job. And you hopefully want to bring people on who have a much better knowledge base, especially when you're dealing with technology and marketing and sales and all of these different things. So that's it.
Thanks, Rachel.
Okay.
Thank you. Hi there.
Come on up.